Two guys, one bench.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to Two Guys, One Bench. We're 650 pounds of shit talking on a 30-pound bench.
Where we talk shit like it's our second language.
Actually, it's my third. I speak Japanese. Unchi shite nero. Take a shit and have a sleep.
Wannabe is になりたいです Your poop is あなたのうんち And you have to reverse the order because the grammar. You know what I mean?
War smelling salts. Bottle sanity.
All right, before we get into our rants of the day, gonna take a little hit from the old sponsor, Ward Smelling Salts.
Let's get this party started right. Oh, that's a nice pull. It's been a long day. Let's go deep. Oh boy. Yep, that's a good one. All right, so check it out. Ward Smelling Salts Asylum. This lifetime warranty on a canister. Just buy some refills. Check out the little clip to get our code to get 20% discount. Thanks.
War smelling salts. Bottle sanity. Shit talking.
All right, we're going to kick off the shit talking with some rants of the week. My rant of the week is keyboard warriors. You've seen them out there. They're everywhere. They're hiding in the cracks and the creeks like little cockroaches of the internet, scrambling, bambling, looking for any chance they can to get in there and write a little comment with their private accounts. So I just like to say, hey, grow a pair of balls or perhaps some ovaries if that's the case, and make your account public. And how about this? Instead of coming from this position where you know everything, how about you educate yourself and take the time to not be a pile of shit? Thank you.
To go on top of that, let me just add, all these motherfuckers that are on the internet talking like they're experts, especially you see it on the lifting posts.
Oh.
I want you to post your shit publicly before you call someone else up. When you're out there squatting high as fuck and then commenting on someone else's lift, you need to take a deep look at yourself before you comment on others. Because 98% of the time, these motherfuckers with private profiles, 38 followers who want to comment on
39.
Oh yeah. Because they're chasing clout, trying to do whatever they can to be somewhat relevant, and it doesn't work. You guys are pieces of shit, or you girls are pieces of shit for the females out there that are hating.
I really don't think females get the feeling to tap into a keyboard and start talking shit online. It's more of these guys, sitting down in their basements in their underwear, piss stains all over the white gunches. And they're just sitting there hating because they don't do shit. I feel maybe women are more just get in groups and talk shit and gossips, and they won't let you know. But anyways, keyboard warriors, well,
Go fuck yourself.
go fuck yourself and enjoy your semen-encrusted keyboards.
All right, for my rant of the day, I want to continue on what Russ was talking about the keyboard warriors, little gremlins in the basement.
Tap, tap.
I'm going to talk about keyboard coaches. So it's not a term I came up with. I got it from talking to a buddy online, actually, and we're talking about it a bit, and it's those coaches who like to coach shit that they don't practice. It's the guys who read something or see it on YouTube and think they're an expert in it with never doing it themselves. You want an example of it? Powerlifting coaches who've never done a meet, don't train in powerlifting. You think, well, that's pretty fucking stupid to coach something you don't do. Yeah, you're right, but people still do it. You got Olympic lifters coaching powerlifters, because that makes sense, because you can train them exactly the fucking same. If I am a basketball player my entire life and only do basketball, why the fuck am I going to coach golf? It doesn't cross over in any way.
There's a ball.
No, there's a ball, so it must be the same.
Balls.
Just like there's a bar, so it must be the same. How about stay in your lane? If you don't know something, learn more before you do it. Or, here's an idea, get in the gym and fucking train. Instead of being on the sideline, not practicing what you preach, and setting up these athletes for failure because you have too big of an ego to realize you can't do everything on your own.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's if you don't know what it's like to, let's say, bench press over 400 pounds, what it took to get there naturally or whatever, if you're a gear guy, whatever. But just knowing what it takes, how to get there, and how long it takes, and what you got to do, you need to know that knowledge if you're going to train someone to do that. I mean, not necessarily. I mean, there are great coaches that are smaller, teaching or coaching larger men or whatever, women. But I'm just saying you have to prove your merit before you can, have these athletes and have this great, I see a lot of these companies make great spreadsheets and great programs, and they look awesome. They look like almost, a booklet that's it's amazing. This has got to work. But the motherfuckers behind the sheets don't know shit.
Your spreadsheet doesn't get the results. You as a coach does. Anybody can copy your spreadsheet. So how about you put in some fucking time and work on your craft, which means putting yourself in the gym and putting yourself in the position that you put your athletes in, instead of the blind leading the blind and setting them up for failure down the road like an asshole.
Strength sports.
All right, we're going to hop into a little bit of a strength sport recap, going over something that happened not this past weekend, but the weekend before. So we had two athletes that were going for the all-time world record deadlift at 502 kilo that Hapthor just set not too long ago at 501. There was two lifters going for it, Rauno Heinla and Ivan Makarov. I'm probably butchering his name, but sorry if I am. And honestly, this is probably the most disappointing event I've watched all year, because Ivan attempted this earlier on this year and had zero chance when he tried it then, and it looked like he improved 0% since then.
Yeah.
So they had 3 attempts at it, and whoever pulled the most on the day also got a bonus cash prize. So Rauno Heinla, he's a great lifter, great strong man, but I think it was a bit of an embarrassment to even be there. He clearly wasn't even there to attempt a world record. He was there to just outpull Ivan and make sure he left with some money. He left with a 455 kilo deadlift as his biggest, not even attempting the 502, which if you're both there for a world record, why the fuck are you nowhere close to it? You're clearly just there being strategic, making sure you leave with some cash in your pocket instead of showing the people what everyone came to see. If we wanted to see 1,003 deadlift, we could watch Jamal Browner do it fucking week in and week out in his gym, not using a deadlift suit. And Ivan Makarov, I don't understand the constant need to keep testing it over and over. I get it, you want to hit it, but fuck, the lift moved just as much in, I don't know what month it was, a few months ago, as it did when you attempted it on the weekend. It went absolutely nowhere. But the one guy I want to give a big shout out to, one of my favorite, 𝐓.𝐆.𝐻 𝐏𝐿𝐴. He set the Masters deadlift world record for strongman, which was 436 kilo, works out to 961 pounds. He's one of my favorite lifters, obviously one of the older guys, but my favorite thing is he's a showman and he will grind a rep out. And you saw it when he was shaking and bleeding his way up to that lockout.
I mean, yeah, this guy's got fans primarily from that one deadlift a few years back at the Arnold's where he was grinding it out, bleeding through his nose. I even suggest that he puts in some blood capsules in his nostrils and punches himself in the nose right before he goes out, just like WWE wrestlers would do. Just, you know, that kind of grit and how he grinds things out with no fucks given is amazing. And I hate to say it, that's what people want to see. They don't want to see guys, you know, giving up. And I know it's hard for some people, but just like in fighting, guys that give it all their heart, they're out there, you know, say Mark Hunt, for example, just swinging until the last second and giving everything he has to the sport. And that's the kind of people that, you know, when we're coming down to thinking who's the greatest of all time or who's the greatest fan favorite, do those points count? We're going to talk about that a little bit later in the combat sports section.
I am the gift. My name is Tyrian Lannister.
And another big achievement that happened 2 weeks ago, Tyrian Lannister, Taylor Atwood became the first man in the IPF to total 800 kilos plus at the 75 kilo class. It was an impressive feat for a midget. And considering he pulls sumo, I'm not really that impressed. Yes, he's a great lifter, but I don't care, you're 4'3". All jokes aside, 800 kilo total is fucking impressive, even though it was sumo. But it is a huge, huge thing because regardless your body weight, 800 kilos is a massive fucking total.
Yeah, I mean, this guy's lifted more than some heavyweight guys, so definitely incredible. We just thought we'd shoot a little joke there. Game of Thrones. Yeah, sorry about that.
Choices and consequences. Misfit.
All right, everybody. 2 Guys, 1 Bench is very excited to announce that we now have an official sponsor. That's Misfit Powerlifting. An awesome brand that's been promoting community within the strength sports here in Canada, and they produce a lot of cool looking stuff. We're going to shout out Samuel Rissling. Check out this video.
Let's go! Go! Yeah! Come on! Up! Go, baby! Come on! Yeah, buddy!
So, as you can see, Samuel is an absolute monster. That was the Static Monsters. It was a worldwide event where everybody competed in 2 lifts. It was the log and then an axle bar deadlift at a specific height. So everybody in the world competed. It's an awesome thing. Anybody can do it in their respective gyms. So I love that. We could see a lot more of that. I love to see Dorrell try to pull off that axle deadlift. I'm pretty sure he could hit over 1,000 here.
Choices and consequences. Misfit.
Combat sports.
Now getting into combat sports a little bit more. There's been quite a bit that's gone on the past 2 weekends. There was a fight night 2 weekends ago.
Yeah.
And then this past weekend, of course, was Kabib and Gaethje. But let's get started with 2 weeks ago when it was Brian Ortega against Korean Zombie.
Yeah, we just rewatched that fight about an hour ago while I was pumping some chesticles down here in the Muteki gym headquarters, and we were preparing for the podcast. But one thing we both said, great fight, but damn, it's boring to watch these guys. They're cracking and banging, but not knocking each other out. But let's not take that away from Brian Ortega. Why is that?
Honestly, it was masterful performance by him. Someone who's seen as just a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu practitioner and just a grappler to come out and stand toe-to-toe with a guy who everyone says has one-punch knockout power, and you don't want to go in a striking battle with the guy to convincingly win 50 to 45 on all the judges' cards is a big accomplishment to him, to tell the crowd, like, I don't care what he's good at, I'm going to do what he's good at and beat his ass. And it's a big recovery fight after his loss to Max, and now he got a title shot out of it.
Yeah, I like that. I like that game plan. That's kind of the Jackson's and the main mentality where we're gonna take it to him where he's good at. And once you do that, you steal their soul. And so basically, that's essentially what happened. Didn't have to go to the ground. One highlight, I'll throw it in here.
Having the better.
Is where Ortega does a crazy spinning elbow. Yair Rodriguez actually pulled this off and knocked the zombie out in his last fight, I believe. So it's taken a page out of someone else's book, but hey, it works, right? So I often teach that technique in my classes, so I'm happy to see that getting pulled off.
Yeah, it was pretty great to see, and anybody who watched all the whole fight, he tried it about 3 times to end rounds, because once it landed once, he was going at it again, and he even was about to pull it off in, I think it was the 4th or 5th round as the buzzer sounded, and he stopped midway through. But it was actually pretty funny watching it, to see the live commentary from people on Twitter and stuff talking about, oh, that round was 10-9 for Ortega, but he's playing a dangerous game standing on his feet. At no point in that fight did you ever think Ortega was going to lose. No. And he's supposed to be the underdog. Yeah,
and actually, I think it'd be very hard to knock out either fighter, but Ortega basically took a more one-sided beatdown by Max Holloway and just got the shit can out of him, but they couldn't knock him out. So that just says, the guy's got a chin, he's not worried to bang.
Yeah.
So that was pretty awesome.
The fight of the year is what it was built up to be. One of the most anticipated fights, and honestly, it didn't disappoint. It was over a little quicker than people probably thought it would be, but Kabib versus Justin Gaethje for the 155 title. And honestly, I didn't see anything that I wasn't expecting. It obviously ended 2nd round submission, and Kabib does what he always does, a lot of pressure, but Gaethje also did a lot of what he was talking about, a lot of calf kicks to try and slow down Kabib, and it honestly just seemed like the game plan was working, even though he lost the 1st round. But as soon as it got to the ground, the fight is over anytime.
Yeah, I mean, I always kind of cheer for the underdog, especially when the champion has been undefeated for how many fights. So, and cool thing about Kabib, the guy has, no kind of asterisks on his record. There's no tainted supplement. There's no cocaine, nothing.
None
of that. Well, we'll leave to that later. But anyways, he's definitely been a great champion, and to see him retire on top is amazing. I like that. Dorrell and I, we were on Instagram, we're texting each other, and we were just getting a little heated debate about, who is the greatest of all time. And he has his perspective, I have mine. If he was in front of me at the time, I was feeling like I was going to slap him. He's being a bit of a keyboard warrior. He hasn't been in a ring, but he's very knowledgeable.
Yeah. So what brought it on was, as soon as Kabib won, everybody's saying, he's the GOAT, he's the GOAT, he's the GOAT. Well, there's a couple things that I had a problem with watching that. Yes, Kabib is one of the greatest of all time. I'll never take that away from him. He's by far the best 155 of all time. That's not up for debate. You can't name anyone who's even somewhat close. But in the UFC, they tend to hop on bandwagons very quickly. Like, you got Joe Rogan calling him the GOAT. Joe Rogan pumps up every fight like this is the greatest fighter of all time. It's what he's paid to do.
Joe Rogan's high on DMT half the time.
Yeah.
And he's just made $400 million with Spotify. He's laughing his balls off.
And you got Dana White calling him the GOAT, and you got a lot of smaller fighters for the most part calling him GOAT. Obviously, Daniel Cormier is going to call him it because he doesn't want to give the title up to Jon Jones, because that would, one, he would take it away from his teammate. Two, he'd have to admit and actually say something nice about Jon Jones.
True, exactly.
So we got talking about who is the GOAT in your opinion, or even is there one?
Yeah, I mean, for me, with Dorrell, like I said, he could retire as the GOAT. And what I meant by that was definitely in that weight class. Now, for me, the greatest of all time, I would say has to be someone who not just won and retired and came off as the greatest of all time that never lost. I'm more of a guy who's had a guy that's had some ups and downs in his career, but has come back to persevere and win. Not too many losses. However, I feel that someone that's gotten 2 belts in different weight classes is definitely is more of the greatest of all time.
This comes out of your mouth.
And this fighter, his name starts with C, and he's about as Irish as the Rizzy over here, because his name's Daniel Cormier, until he just lost. Because, in my opinion, when you look at the greatest fighters out there,
I thought you were going to say Connor. So.
Yeah, Cormier does start with a C. But I just want to say, like, Cormier, even though he lost, he should have retired when he beat Stipe that first time, and that would have been icing on the cake. But however, that didn't happen. So he came out kind of empty-handed, and now he's an announcer. But I would say, looking back for me on guys, I'm a heavyweight. I just look at the greatest fighter of all time. You think of the guy that had smashed so many guys in the heavyweight division.
Cleared the division out.
And also became champ in the light heavyweight division. Now, there is that dark horse, Bones Jones, my boy. I trained with him before. And watch that little picture. That's when Russ was a skinny man and in fight shape. But anyways, Bones Jones, I mean, he still hasn't moved up to a weight class and got another belt. But he definitely had Cormier's number. What's your opinion there, Dorrell?
So for me, anyone who knows me knows Anderson Silva by far is my favorite fighter of all time.
It's normal.
And everything he did, like whenever the conversation would come up of who would win between him and GSP, and like that's not a conversation to me that we can have realistically, because when you're close by 10 pounds, I'm going to take that bigger guy when it's close because he's going to ragdoll you. But then Jon Jones entered the conversation, and it's not even close for me. If you were to put Silva against Jon, all I have to do to compare the two in their primes, I guess, Silva struggled with Chael Sonnen and the wrestling. Jon Jones beat the living shit out of Chael and made very quick work out of him.
However, if the fight had gone on, if you didn't notice, that's when Jon's
broke his toe,
got ripped half. If he would have continued, Chael's been fucking so close to being the best, and he calls himself the best. But no, he got triangle choked by Silva, and no, Jones's toe got ripped off, and if you would have just gone a little longer, you could have won.
I think it was like 10 seconds or some shit.
That
and
fucking toe was literally ready to rip right off his foot.
But to just go at what you said about Daniel, I can't argue that he's definitely one of the greatest. I actually was debating this with someone before, but the fact that he's so great improves my case, I believe, for Jon Jones even more, because he beat him twice. And obviously what everyone's going to say is the asterisks. He's had negative drug tests he's had cocaine once and a PED the other time. And in sports like this, aside from strength sports, I understand PEDs are going to make you better. But I could hop on everything in the world and I could not fight Jon Jones. It's not going to make me, it's not going to improve my timing. It's not going to make me just a better technical wrestler or fighter. And then the difference between the first and second fight when he fought DC, it was just a huge difference. The first time he was a little hesitant, but the second time when he comes back and hits him with a head kick, wobbles him, then finishes him, like he said after when DC wanted to change the narrative that he only lost because of steroids, it's like, oh, so a steroid metabolite is what made me go to your body, and then when you drop your hands, feed you a high kick. It's just, and at the same time, I'm also under the belief that lots of these fighters, which has been shown that Jon has fought, have tested positive for PEDs.
Yeah.
So I don't believe that everybody out there is just fighting clean, and Jon's the only one who did it. And to me, it doesn't matter what he was doing. It didn't change the fact that he went out there and handled business. He has, I think, 14 or 15 title fights, which to combat the Kabib argument, Kabib has 4. So it's just different. You're fighting the best guys. Some of them were boring, but hey, when you're the best and you're always fighting the best, you're not fighting bums so you can pad your record to get up there. I do believe DC is one of the best out there, but the fact that, 1, he lost to Jon twice, 2, the man vacated his light heavyweight belt as soon as Jon came off a suspension instead of trying to fight him a third time, because we all know how that trilogy would have ended up. It kind of signals that he knew he didn't want that problem. He saw Stipe as an easier win because he knocked him out once, so he beat him again.
All right, so what you're saying is Jon Jones is in the super heavyweight class?
No.
Because, I mean, he just gained another 265 pounds with you hanging off his nutsack. Not for that, but I get where Terrell's coming from. I love Jones too, but there is all the controversy, all the shit he's done, steroids, juice. Now, Cormier, I don't think so. He's got the body of a 50-year-old female.
But so did Fabricio Verdum. He looked like absolute shit, and his...
He doesn't have a Cormier body. Come on, son.
There's been some guys out there who test hot, and they look terrible.
This is true. Josh Barnett had a bit of the childbearing hips, and he's always been on the gear. But anyways, let's move on. Great little debate, and obviously we're never going to agree on everything.
No. We're just going to agree on one thing, that Conor McGregor should never be in this conversation.
Conor McFucksticks is not a great champion.
Technique of the week.
All right, everybody. Now we're down to our technique of the week.
Feel like the body shot might be open for you tonight?
I work on it. And also I work on body shot, and then to punch with my arms. What was in first round, I make body shot in one arms, and in this round I make.
All right, breaking down the fight that I like the best, because this technique that he used ended the fight, and it's what I teach in my classes almost weekly, is Volkov versus Harris. 2 giant dudes. Volkov, I believe, 6'7", or maybe even a little more. Harris, 6'5", 6'6", former basketball player, just an athletic monster. Looks, very intimidating, and is. But you're going against a striker who's just such a high-level kickboxer, K1 style, that it's hard to just infiltrate that unless you were maybe a wrestler, or if you had that crazy
One-punch knockout like Derek Lewis.
Derek Lewis, Black Beast knockout. Boom. But I want to say that what he used was effective striking, and in the end, is called a Geri in karate, or a front kick, but definitely not the teep traditionally used in Muay Thai.
前にトンとこう帯の結びトンと前に起きなくてこう蹴らないこのままの状態で片足出すから
So I often teach this kick. I call it the stabby front kick, but for my students, Geri. I like to do it with my lead leg because it's often the leg that they don't see and it's closest to them. So it's really hard, really easy, and really hard for them to see what's what's coming. Very easy for me to slide that in right on their liver. And what we saw in the fight was Volkov taking a rear front kick, or my Geri, right to the liver and automatically dropping. He was in pain. I've been hitting the liver a few times very hard. Never gone down from it. I definitely say I've done it to people and I've seen them drop, and it's the only way to explain a liver shot. And from what I've heard, and I've felt it, I haven't shut down completely from one, is your body just shuts down. Like you cannot, it's basically a knockdown or a knockout because you can't continue, but your body just goes, okay, we've taken too much. You're sitting down and doing nothing, and the pain is immense. But it's...
How long does that last for someone who's never
The thing
fought?
with like liver shots and why you throw them a lot is just they add up, right? If I was, say, a boxer and I was orthodox fighter, I'd just keep on hitting that left to the liver, adding up those shots, like putting money in the bank. And that's what they say with fighters, put money in the bank at the beginning rounds, and then it pays off towards the end where, you just can't take it anymore. Pain is just like, once you get a little bit of a stitch and the feeling where you get hit, it's just almost impossible to avoid. And once they see the grimace on your face, it's quite easy to be attacked. So,
have you ever seen anyone crumble from one shot there, or is it is it always just?
No, it could be a one good one, and that's why it's more of a knockdown or knockout, or technical knockout. You'll see it all the time. One of my favorite examples of this, and very similar to Volkov, one of the greatest K1 fighters ever, SHIT, who was even taller. I believe he was closer to 6'10". Giant Dutch guy. He's a karate fighter as well, Seto Kaikon, K1 style. But he used his jab and his lead leg front kick a lot just to stab people in the head, in the body. And then one of his best KOs was a spinning, basically back kick or heel kick right to Mark Hunt's liver.
자, 니키 왼손. 저 지옥의 콤비네이션이 이어집니다. 자, 뒤차기에 지금 다운됩니다. 푸시의 뒤차기로 다운을 만들어내는 샘
I saw that.
And you'll see Mark Hunt, who never really goes down,
It can eat
especially
anything.
back then, instantaneous, down, done, game over. A lot of times they say, if you can't knock someone out and you're having a hard time, go for the body. But I always say, yeah, put that money in the bank. So check out that my Geri or front kick, snapping front kick, and I find it's a little more effective than, let's say, a teep. Teep's just trying to create space, maybe push them across the room. They do hurt. However, these are, it's like getting stabbed, basically. It's terrible. And they're highly effective. And another thing is, they're very hard to catch. So when you're throwing a big front teep kick, a lot of guys can catch it and then, drop you. We saw it a few weeks ago in the UFC where a guy caught the kick, made the mistake, and turned it over, and the guy did a spinning back kick to his head. That was amazing. Watch that here. And so, there's all kinds of crazy kicks going on these days. What I find is most impressive is guys that are using these precision techniques, and often from traditional martial arts. So check it out. And so to do this kick, I find you really have to have good mobility. And so you really have to have the ability to curl your toes in and kick with the ball of your foot. You're not hitting with your toes. You're hitting with the ball of your foot. So it is quite dangerous because you can hit an elbow or forearm and blow your sprain all your toes. It's happened to me a lot until I've just mastered it, right? So it's with every kind of martial art or technique, you got to practice it, thousands and thousands of times. So I often tell that to my students. So, but you need to improve your mobility in your gastrocnemius or your calf muscle. And often people think, oh, it's my ankle. No, it's your tightness in your calf muscles. So Dorrell is a bit of an expert on mobility and helping his lifters. So how would you kind of stretch that up?
So I'm gonna approach it from a couple different angles. I know everyone's thinking stretching, but you don't want to just hop straight into it, because if you've got something that's tight or possibly injured, stretching it when you're not warm can possibly tear it. And despite what you might think, stretching doesn't warm you up. It doesn't warm shit up when you're doing it. So the best way to kind of activate it at first. So my favorite thing would be rolling at first, whether that's putting a lacrosse ball behind the calf and rolling as much as you can. Another thing would just be standing on an elevated step, heel off, and you're just going through ranges of motion just to slowly get blood flowing in there, get everything moving a little bit. Obviously, you're going to be restricted, but then once we get blood in there, then we can start working into a deeper stretch to stretch out the gastroc in the back. So maybe putting your foot up on a wall, like walls here, foot's here, stretching, get your calf to release, maybe going through an active motion, gas pedaling, pressure, release, doing active holds. Another thing that's going to restrict that ankle from that is also the front, the anterior tibialis. So it can be as simple as manual massage, rubbing down what feels like right where the shin bone drops off.
Rub downs.
Yeah. Going through there, sliding your thumb down it while going through a range of motion with your ankle will help release it to an extent. But lastly, I want to make sure that the foot and fascia is rolled out. So I like to just stick with the lacrosse ball, roll that out as much as possible, and you're good to go.
Awesome, yeah. That would definitely help out athletes that are trying to get that mind Geri going. But also, I feel that would definitely help out people, powerlifting, strength sports, trying to reach proper depth on their squat without, maybe even using lifting shoes. You work on that mobility, you might not need to. So definitely take those pointers.
All right, guys, thanks again for tuning in to Two Guys, One Bench. Join in next week when we shoot another amazing episode. And always remember,
eat big,
train hard,
and always be fight ready.
Choices and consequences. Misfit.
Two guys, one bench.
War smelling salts. Bottle insanity.
Techie Strong Mindset with host Russell Peel.
Home Gyms YYC.